We're doing this in 3, 2, 1, and welcome to another episode of the Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik. You found the channel where you can nerd out about all your favorite cars on Cars and Bids and bring a trailer with my partner, Michael Deeb. Look at this guy. There he is. He's coming to you live from San Francisco. I'm live from Las Vegas. How you doing this morning, Michael Deeb?
Great, JP. Good morning.
Awesome. You know what? Today is super exciting because today is Third Nerd Thursday. We have a third nerd, a special guest from somewhere in the Midwest. This guy, he's a stand-up comedian. He's one of the originators of Radwood, and he's keeping the mullet alive. Cameron Vanderhorst. Look at that guy.
Thank you. I gotta point out, I had nothing to do with Radwood, mostly because they wouldn't let me.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to get. Yeah. I don't want to get anything back from that.
Well, we did meet in person for the first time at Radwood.
I just ran up my credit card bill so that I could fly out and run the merch booth. That's I haven't been to any Radwood since the first one. The second one. I haven't been to any since the second one.
Well, he lives the rad ethos. Look at that hair, man.
Yeah, I don't need people dressing up in zany costumes. You know, that's appropriation of my culture.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, I wake up, I feed my chickens, I look at my 2 Corvettes, neither of them run. You know, these people think it's fun and cute to dress up in a zany outfit on the weekend and go to Radwood, and it's like, no, it's like I do that every day.
I feel the oppression. This is rough duty here. Mullet lives matter right there. I don't know if we're going someplace that we shouldn't. There is a reason why I'm bald, Cameron, or bald, and that is I used to have hair and I used to have a mullet. Put the two together. I'm just saying.
I'm getting old and getting good.
Yeah, and I did frost my hair in the 90s too, so maybe you get 3 strikes with the hair gods, and I'm just this is a young guy. This is an old guy talking to a young guy. Cameron, it really is great to have you here. We're gonna play. Awesome. We're gonna play some cars and bids and bring a trailer games. You guys ready to get into the cars?
Let's go. Yeah.
All right, Michael Deeb, why don't you? Just real quick to explain to people that may be new, what we do on this channel is we pick our top 5 picks of the day on Cars and Bids and bring a trailer. We nerd out about those cars, and we make predictions as to what they will hammer for, sell, or not sell at on the auction block. So let's start with the cars. Michael Deeb, which cars first?
Awesome. Let's start on Cars and Bids, and we're looking at today a 2016 Porsche Cayman GT4. Doug DeMiro introduces this car to us out of Jacksonville, Florida, as a one-owner, 8,400 mile. Most of the people that bought GT4s, which are truly track-oriented versions of the Cayman, as track cars or weekend drivers. So it's not uncommon to see even a 2016 with such low miles. This looks like a beautiful one in rhodium silver. The 2 big options on these cars, JP, because they all came with stick shift, were the racing bucket seats and the carbon ceramic brakes. The seats, I think, were like $5,000, and the brakes are usually like $8,000 or $9,000. This car has neither. So this is in Porsche speak, and I mean real geek out. This car has sofas and steels, as they like to say. So in theory, this is an undesirable version of the car. But I got to tell you, now that I'm 50 years old, JP, this is how I would take. This is how I take mine. And our good friend Solomon Braun got his with Racing Carbon Ceramics, and he's a few months older than me. Ask him how he feels about his racing seats when he takes his wife on long drives. I guarantee you he would swap for this car in a heartbeat. Anyway, this car is no stories, no modifications, no accident history or anything. This is a no-nonsense, beautiful, clean, one-owner example out of Jacksonville, Florida. The car is sitting at $75,000. And it's got quite a bit of action, 26 bids. What do you think, Cameron? You've ever driven one of these guys?
I have not. I've been around them. I haven't driven them from a distance. I like my stuff air cooled. It's not that I don't like the water cooled stuff. It's that they don't let anybody, you know, with like a mullet and a mullet worthy credit score anywhere near those things. So.
Yeah. Well, what I want to know is I know that you can fit a set of golf clubs in the back, in the boot, or in the trunk, the actual rear trunk. But can you fit a walker in there? I mean, is that something that?
Yeah.
So the thing I think that's interesting to note about the GT4 is the GT4 is really the high watermark of not only obviously the Cayman lineup, but for a lot of people there's a silent or there's a group of people that really don't think very highly of the current 911, that they think that the 911s keep getting too big and too fat. And for those people, they acknowledge the fact that the Cayman is probably a better platform. And the GT4 is the one time per generation that Porsche actually lets lets the Cayman be better than the 911 a little bit.
That's spot on, by the way.
But I think it's not going to hold the values of these cars back. These cars are interesting because they're almost never going to be worth less than they were when they were new. But I think when these cars' values are really going to take off is when we see a point of diminishing returns, whereas each successive new generation of the Cayman, and then at the end you see the Cayman GT4, they're still getting progressively better. Yeah. The GT4s are still getting progressively better. When we get the first GT4 that the enthusiast community at large decides this car isn't good anymore, then you'll see the values on these older ones start to go up. Yeah, because that's really what happened with the air-cooled cars. They started appreciating in value like late 2013, which is why I bought mine in early 2013. Yeah, but for a while those were $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 cars. I remember a time when you could buy like a 30,000 mile 2-owner 930 for 30 grand. Yeah. And then it occurred to everybody that they're not making them anymore, and they hadn't been for 20 plus years at that point. And I think we're going to get to that point with the Cayman GT4 where you're going to see some action on this. I think being a base model, being the XL model F-150 is going to hurt this car a little bit with some people. But for other people, there's still going to be enough people. There's always more people that want Cayman GT4s than there are Cayman GT4s. Yeah. So this car is going to do well, but I think what's holding it back is the fact that GT4s actually are still getting better in the eyes of most people that love these cars.
That's a good analysis. There's one thing, too, is that, we have very good friends personally. Our friend Daniel he started out with one of these. Then he got a GT3 RS of the following year. He drove that for about a year, and he just traded in on the new GT4. So he went back. He went from the pinnacle of 911 back to the GT4 because it has the stick, because it has all those things, all the things that drivers love. I think it's spot on. All right, well, that's good stuff. Let's get to the bids. Michael Deeb, where do you think this car is going to land in about 3.5 hours when this auction closes?
So again, out of Jacksonville, Florida, JP, this car has about 4 hours left. Quite a bit of action with 26 bids, and it's sitting at $75,500. That being said, a Steels and Sofa car, I think max value is going to be $85,000. It seems like there'd be other choices if you go above that. So I'm going to say $85,000, and it sells there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That price is actually spot on. 85 is what this car is worth. The one thing I don't think Cameron is necessarily right. I think there are a lot of these. I think they made a ton more of them than they said that they did or were going to. Yeah. So I don't think there's any shortage of them. It really comes down to, do you have the right color?
I'm sorry. I wasn't saying there was a shortage. I'm saying there's always more people. There's always more demand than there are cars. Porsche's great at that.
Yeah.
If they made like I am in the C4 Corvettes, there's like 350,000 C4 Corvettes out there. That's why
right per year. Yeah.
But if they made 10,000 of these, there's 11,000 guys that want one.
That's right.
What keeps the value up?
Yeah.
Well, Cameron, I'm glad to see that you're still there. We can't see you, but we can hear you. What's your bid?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm gonna concur on $85,000. I think that's absolutely like you said.
Well, you gotta go over or under. You gotta just.
Are we doing prices right?
It's kind of prices right rules here. Yep.
I'll say 86. I think people are a little. It's weird. The collector car market didn't slow down like we thought it would with the pandemic. I think people are getting stir crazy. Yeah.
Low miles, which is great, but out of Florida, not so great. I'm gonna bet the under and go 84.5.
84.5. Excellent.
Okay, let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
Okay, so JP, I picked a really weird car for us out of Seattle, Washington. This is a 1991 Mercedes-Benz 300 CE that came with an inline-six motor, and this car has been modified in almost every way with a pair of Moselman twin Garrett T25 turbochargers and a top-mounted intercooler that I believe feeds both turbos. The car has been switched from a 4-speed automatic to a 5-speed manual. I believe the build, or at least the owner of this car originally, is from Japan. And they put a 500E front clip on this car. So the fenders and the front nose and grille and headlights are all off of a 500E. So that's why the car's got the big front fender flares. That's going to widen the front track and help the car move up around the turn. But the big thing for me is the switch to a 5-speed manual. Inline six, the 300 CE, about 160 and 70 horsepower. This car now makes 340 horsepower and 320 foot-pounds of torque. In the early 90s, this kind of conversion costs like a couple $100,000, and this car only has 24,000 miles on it. It's showing 39,000 kilometers on the odometer, and yet the car is languishing with just 7 bids out of Seattle, and at $10,500, and it's been legally imported and is on a Washington title. So I am shocked this car is not getting more love. But I just think it's really cool. There's some period details. There's like little NACA ducts in the lower leading edge of the rear quarter fenders. And it's very reminiscent of the Sauber C9s that ran at Le Mans and gave Michael Schumacher his platform into Formula One. I'm a big fan of the old racing cars, and this is just cool gear and cool tech from 30 years ago.
Okay.
So,
Cameron, yeah, I think his hair fit. I think the mullet goes for this car. Cameron, what do you think?
I don't know. This one's weird. Like I'm sad like you. I'm sad that it's languishing, but I can see why it is, because this car is the market, right? I mean, it's the only one that any of us have ever seen. I've noticed I'm no Mercedes-Benz aficionado. I spent enough time doing parts for them and going through their arcane chassis numbering system that I wouldn't pee on a gull wing if it was on fire, because then I might have to order parts to fix it. But I can appreciate them, and this car is really cool. I've noticed a couple things about the Japanese tuner car market, because with my time in BMWs, I don't know if you guys knew this. Are you guys familiar with Tommy Kaira at all?
No.
They tuned. They were a well-renowned Skyline tuner in the 1980s and 1990s and beyond that. But what I've noticed is that they would, I believe it was Hartke BMWs, they were the importer for in Japan. And they also did like a Tommy Kaira tuned version of the Cosworth 2.316. And there's people that love Japanese imports that are Japanese tuner cars of Japanese cars. But I haven't seen any heat over the last few years, really, on any Japanese tuned European cars, which is unusual, because most of them are like, there's 1 in 5. It's either people aren't as interested in them, or there's one guy interested in them, or everybody's afraid because they don't know what the market is, because there's only 1 or 2, 6 of them. Does that make any sense? Like, I see this.
It does. I've never heard of this thing.
I can see it going for like 16, 16.5, 17. I'll lock in at 16.5.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And that's unfortunate. The car deserves more than that. It's very cool.
This car kind of looks to me like what inspired the CLK Black, maybe. Because nowadays the manufacturer does stuff like this, but back in the day, the manufacturer never did stuff like this, except for maybe the Cosworth or whatever, like Michael Deeb has. And we're going to talk about that car a little later in the show. It ends at about 2.5 hours. The current bid is at 10.5. Cameron has already said his bid at, what was that, 16? What was it?
Yeah, I'm saying 16.5, and the car deserves
16.5.
better.
16.5. All right. How much action we got on this already?
Just 7 bids, not a lot.
Yeah. Do you think it sells at that, Cameron?
No. Ooh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I can't see it. I don't see any. Here's the thing: is like Cars and Bids tells you there's a reserve, and I think this does too. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling right now.
Bring a trailer tells you if there's no reserve. So then the assumption.
Yeah, this has a reserve.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah.
I mean, there's 109 comments, so there's heat in the comments. I'm going to go back to like what I said. I think everyone's afraid of it because everybody probably thinks it's really effing cool. But what do I? Nobody wants to overpay.
Yeah.
And if if there's no other ones for sale or no other ones that have sold, like I said, this car is the market.
Michael Deeb, what do you think? What do you think it's going to come in at?
Yeah, I agree with Cam, and so I'm going to go 27,000 and no.
Wow.
And I think there'll be some late action, but I don't think it's going to meet the reserve. These guys imported it out of Seattle. These guys in Seattle that are selling it imported it, and I think they even rebuilt the top end. So they've got probably a huge investment in this car, and they have not found the buyer for it here. And JP, you said something very astute. This car predates Mercedes-Benz acquisition of AMG. So, this was neat. Mercedes started doing this stuff in-house, like the C36 would be a perfect example to compare to this car as far as power and performance and a warranty.
Well, I don't think it's going to sell here today at any. I don't. Is it going to beat 16? Is it 27? Is really aggressive. I'll split the difference and go 20. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that. I probably would have been down where Cameron was at, but just for the sake of competition and Price is Right, I'm gonna go in the middle of you guys.
All right,
20,000. Okay, so let's get to the next car. That's a very interesting car. I'm glad we brought that one up today. What's next?
Cool. Okay, so we're gonna stay on Bring a Trailer and. We're going to look at a 2010 Ferrari California. This is one of the early Californias. This car is offered to us out of Monterey, and it's got just 8,700 miles, which I think is pretty similar to our GT4. No nonsense, no stories, single-family ownership. These cars came with a 4.3-liter V8 that Fiat Group, which owns Ferrari but does not operate Ferrari, talked Ferrari into using that motor with Maserati and also in the Alpha 8C. So this motor has seen a lot of action in a couple of different platforms, so it's a really strong engine. But the California was Ferrari produced it with Pininfarina. They wanted to have a retractable hardtop, and I would say that this is probably the most polarizing contemporary Ferrari of the last, say, probably 20 years. And most people don't like it. This was the first Ferrari to have more than 5% of the takers of the car be a woman. I think 15 to 18% of the people that bought the Ferrari Californias were female, which was a big jump for Ferrari. These cars have not done well in the secondary market. Because they've just been polarizing and kind of like the hairdresser's car, kind of the Boxster of the Ferrari lineup. So out of Monterey, California, a beautiful, no stories, dual clutch. This thing's got a lot of horsepower. I mean, it's a really cool car, nearly 500 horse. But there you go. What do you think, Cameron?
I think this is the Millennial Mondial, for better or for worse.
Absolutely.
I happen to like the Mondial. If you actually form your own opinions about cars instead of just reading clickbait top 10 articles, you find some hidden gems. And the Mondial is a car that looks a lot better in person than it does in photos.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, it looked awesome in Weird Science. It was the greatest looking car in the world.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen I got to put that on the list. I haven't seen that one in a while.
Yeah.
Love me some Oingo Boingo though. So
come on.
The Mondial was one of the first cars that when Fiat fully took over Ferrari in the late 70s, that was the first car that Fiat dictated to Ferrari they wanted them to build, a car with a back seat that I think was meant to compete with Jaguar and Porsche at that time.
All right, let's stay on the California, guys.
All right.
Sorry. I mean, that really shows how polarizing the California is that none of us actually want to talk about it, right?
that roof, the roof that you talked about, the collapsible hardtop, is not modeled after the Mercedes SL. It is the Mercedes SL collapsible roof. They share it with Mercedes.
Wow.
It is the exact same unit.
Useless trivia.
This car, I see it selling if it makes it to 130.
Okay, well,
I'm not saying necessarily it makes it to 130, but it deserves it at least. But I think that's the bottom line of what this car will actually sell for.
Michael Deeb, you know these cars pretty well. What do you think? What's your bid?
Yeah, so when I picked this car 3 days ago on Sunday night, it was at, I don't know, $40,000. And the reason why I selected it is most of the cars have 15 to 25,000 miles on them, and they're selling now, some of them, under 100 grand. And so I was curious to see in the winter if this car might go under 100, but it's already at 100,000 with 2 hours to go. I think this car makes it all the way up to, say, $126,000, and I believe it sells.
All right, Cameron, do you got a bid?
Yeah, 130. 130 is my bid.
130. All right, I'm going to go the under and say this thing only climbs up maybe another 20. I'm going to give it 119.
Ooh.
All right.
Because I think it's not summertime. This color combination it's not bad, but I don't think it's super awesome. Where's this car out of, guys?
Monterey, California.
Monterey, California. All right, it's in the right place for it, so you don't have to get it across the country. All right. So before we go on to the next car, we're going to just give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Guys Customs. That's GYX Customs. They make custom bracelets for guys that match your watch or your car. Check this out. If you want to paint to sample a bracelet for your say you've got a Mexico blue GT4 that you just bought on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer, you can order one of these bracelets to match the color of your car. Or if you have, say, I don't know, a Rolex Pepsi dial or something like that, and you want the beads to match the crest of your or the bezel of your watch or the face of your watch, you can have all that stuff done. I'm wearing one with what am I wearing here? I'll show this on the camera here. I am wearing a Marathon Search and Rescue matched with a really cool titanium bead Guys Customs bracelet, and we really love these things. I know Michael Deeb has a couple. The only place that you can get them is at Guys Custom. That's GYX_custom on Instagram. Each one is custom made. Order yours today. Let's get back to the cars. What do we got next, Michael Deeb?
All right, we're going to stay on Bring a Trailer for one more minute, and we're looking at a 2018 911 GT2 RS. Again, this car is just unbelievable. What a badass car. The big thing with the GT2 RS is and this is very Dr. Seuss, it's either with Weissach package or without Weissach package. And this car is sans Weissach. Out of Lafayette, Louisiana, with just 3,700 miles in a striking contemporary Miami blue, which looks very Riviera blue in these images. And I would caution you, as a huge fan of Riviera blue, that in person there is a lot more green in this paint job. The GT2 RS is the ultimate expression. It's basically a GT3 RS with a modified turbocharged motor. So it's got all the handling and agility of the GT3 RS, which is a super track focused car, tons of aero, and they have made this car more bodacious by adding twin turbochargers. These things are like, my goodness, they're like 600, almost 700 horsepower. And the torque to match. I've driven one, and they are absolutely incredible. They were unobtainium when they were new, but Porsche, I believe, somehow maybe didn't get it right, Cam, on this car. Cameron, I think they made a few too many for the U.S. market, and they're languishing. So the big thing now with under 4,000 miles, non-Weissach, how far below sticker price did this car go? And I would say that a lot of these cars were built up to around $340,000 to $380,000 on the MSRP. Our car here was only $307,000, and I would suspect that some used GT2 RS buyers might be looking for more equipment. So does this car suffer? It's already at $247,000, or we could say 60 grand under sticker. What do you think?
I mean, there's less than an hour and a half left on the auction. I think you're right that it's a little bit overproduced, and this particular car is slightly under-equipped. But they really nailed the color combo, right? The blue stitching, the blue seat belts, everything like that. That's going to help this car for sure. I can see this one doing, I'll call it 285. And personally, I think that's a little bit optimistic. But I think it'll probably do 280, 285. I'll lock it in at 285.
All right. You know, this car, the GT2 RS, is the only car with only 2 pedals that I would ever consider owning. It's the only car I've ever driven on the road over 200 miles an hour, and it was on accident. I really didn't think I was going that fast. We were chasing a previous generation 997 GT2 RS that took off. We reeled it in, and honestly, I thought I was doing maybe $130, $140, and just hitting those little flappy paddles, man. There isn't even the slightest shift from traction to axle, and I looked down at the speedometer after I lifted, having just gotten ahead of the 997 GT2 RS, and saw that it was at 202 as it was decelerating. I almost threw up. I couldn't believe I was going that fast. It is absurdly and scarily and deceivingly fast. It's one of those cars that, unfortunately, to have fun in it, you have to be doing felonious things. But boy, what a good time.
Cameron, watch this. Rochelle, JP's wife, is going to walk into the studio and beat him with a shoe.
Yeah, because she didn't get to go. She would have gone 200 feet. How fast did that car go? She's like, let's find out.
I'm going to do the, what is it? The opposite lot comment section. Go, well, you know, if you did GPS verified, it was probably only 197.
Right. Yeah, honestly.
Probably. Okay, Michael Deeb, what's your bid?
So I don't believe in this car as much as Cam does. I'm going to say 265,000.
Dang it!
I do believe it sells there. So I'll undercut Cameron's bid.
Yeah, I think 265 is the number because 250 is kind of. I know that these cars are not. There's a whole bunch of them, and I know the dealerships have them in inventory. What's the miles on this thing, Michael?
3,700.
Yeah,
out of Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana.
We'll just I'll get it since it's got a wonderful color. I mean, that is a great color. We'll give. You said 165, and Cameron said 170 something. 185.
Yeah, 180.
All right, then I'll go 170.
Sorry.
I'll go 170. I don't actually
so
think it's going to make it there. I think it's going to be just over 165. I think Deeb's got it right on the money.
270,000 for
260. Yeah,
okay.
2. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's pop over to Cars and Bids and wrap up today with a no reserve auction. Doug DeMiro is offering us out of Denver, Colorado, a 2003 Land Rover Discovery S. JP, does S stand for shitbox? I'm curious. It's a Series 2. It has some off-road modifications. Only 88,000 miles. However, buyer beware. On the Colorado title, it's branded not actual mileage. So we cannot, nor can Doug DeMiro verify that the 88,000 miles is correct, accurate, and or original. 2003 is the second to last year for these. The shape, they made so many of them, in the late 90s. Or actually in the 90s, these cars were everywhere in the Bay Area. And so to me, this is kind of an iconic shape for Land Rover, even though it's not the big Range Rover. But they have a history of being unreliable. Cameron, what's your experience with these Discos, Disco 2?
So they were discontinuing the Discovery and rolling out the LR3. So for my 16th birthday one year, my parents asked me where I wanted to go, and I had them take me to a Land Rover dealership so I could see one of the last Discoveries. So I'm pretty fond of these cars. This one's got it's a cool car. It's got some desirable modifications. It's got the branded title issue. It's not perfect, which you don't want in an off-roader. I see $9,500 for this thing.
Wow. Yeah. Holy cow. Okay.
I believe.
What do you think? So here's the thing. I mean, it's got the big Safari roof rack. It's got the lights. It's got the ARB bumpers or some kind of ARB wannabe bumpers. This is I've only owned 2 brand new cars. This is one of them. I owned a 2003 brand new back in the day. They have a locking diff, unlike the 2004 where you actually had to mod the center console to access the locking diff, even though it had it, didn't have a lever for it. So this car, I mean, this is really great. The thing is, though, the head gaskets are gonna go. I don't know if that's been mentioned in the ad. I didn't read it. The head gaskets, the block and the heads will warp, and the head gaskets will go, and that means the engine's going to have to be replaced. They are not rebuildable. It happens to all of them. The engine and powertrain is a piece of junk. Yeah.
JP, is the valve cover gasket the same as the head gasket, or am I confusing the two?
Valve cover gasket is not the same as the head gasket.
No.
Okay, so this car has valve cover gaskets recently.
Yeah, not at all. So, and then on top of that, the Series 2 discos had the 3 Amigos that are constantly a problem. That is the hill descent and the anti-lock brakes and the traction control. These 3 little lights that come on. A bad wheel sensor can have that come on, or the pump for those things which cost that thousands of dollars. The roof rack alone and some of the bits are probably worth more than this disco, I think. But because they have those couple of little things, like if it didn't have the roof rack and the lights, you'd be looking at a $2,500, maybe $3,500 disco. Yeah. But it's 100%. At $6,500 already with 2 hours to go. I scoffed at Cameron's bid, but he might be right. What do you think, Michael?
It's a lot of heat on this thing, man. 19 bids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Cameron, what was your bid? 9,500?
9,500.
Okay. I just don't believe in it. I still think 7,500 and this thing peters out because of the title.
Yeah, I mean, what are the bid increments too? This is one of those that could kind of go up at $100 a ton. Yeah, it looks like it's going $100, and it's just a couple people that are trying to get it.
Yeah.
Summit Coat. Yeah, I'll go $8,000. I mean, twice now you stole my number. It's crazy. That's right. I was going to say 7,500, and I wouldn't have said 7,500 had it not already been on. I think this thing's worth about 6,500. That's actually what it's worth. So if it goes over that,
yeah,
I think you guys are getting a little too hung up on the title. Only because, I'll be honest with you, title issues make me walk away from a car faster than anything.
Right.
Yeah. But the mileage discrepancy, if it's a new enough car and you can watch the history through Carfax and the Carfax checks out and everything, I think his story about it being a clerical error at the DMV, having dealt with the DMV plenty of times, it's believable enough to me. I wouldn't buy a $20,000 car with a title issue, but a $10,000 car that I really want that is otherwise, beautiful interior, low miles, all the right mods. I think a lot of people are thinking that way, and they're gonna consider it. Can I tell a really quick Land Rover Discovery anecdote? Another one.
Do it.
Yeah. The first time I went to New York City, I was driving across the Brooklyn Bridge, and one of these was in front of me with a branded dealer spare tire cover, and it was people on a safari in the back of a Series 1 with binoculars. Now. And underneath it's Land Rover Manhattan. And I could think is, wow, you really got to watch for those city giraffes.
Very nice. Very nice.
If I ever have a Land Rover, I absolutely have to get a Land Rover Manhattan spare tire cover for it.
Oh, that is awesome.
I got to look for one of those just to have it. Yeah.
There's a picture. There's a really old picture of it on my Instagram, I believe, with that caption, from years and years, 7 or 8 years ago. But man, that was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen.
Man, I just picture the Land Rover full of Japanese tourists with cameras, and they're double parked on a busy street, on the east side, and they're looking at a homeless person, and they're all photographing a homeless person defecate on the street. I'm like, oh yeah, look at the wild kingdom,
Might be able to find a giraffe in the meat district. Okay, so we've gone through the cars. Those are our top 5 picks today. Before we let Cameron go, I kind of wanted to get his opinion on something. One of the things that we do at Bid Nerds, I mean, we are nerding out about cars on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer, but we're also nerding out about the community and the culture of buying cars and selling cars on these platforms. And we've talked about some interesting things. We had a guest on not long ago who talked about how he sold a car, and when the buyer showed up, he the buyer tried to renegotiate. And we talked about the ethics of that. There is an ethics question that I feel needs to be asked between my good friend, my partner, Michael Deeb, and I. Michael Deeb just bought a car. on a platform, and that car is sitting in the Northeast. So, Cameron, I've got a question for you. Michael Deeb. All right. So this car, where's this car, Deeb? It's in Boston?
Yeah, it's just outside of Boston, Needham, Massachusetts.
All right. So we got to get this car back to the Bay Area where he is at. I'm in Las Vegas. So this car is a cross-country drive. It's December. Right. There's all kinds of other stuff going on in America right now. It's snowing. The car is, what's the car, Michael Deeb?
1986 Mercedes-Benz 190 2.3 16-valve Cosworth.
Oh, nice.
Thing. Yep.
That's really cool. I mean, the Sierra, the Ford Sierra RS 500 Cosworth kicked its ass in touring car racing, but still a really great car, really fantastic car.
Right.
Second place, but still a fantastic car.
It'll be my third one. I've owned two before. I love the cars.
No, they're great cars. I just like that. I've got a few friends that have E30 M3s and a couple friends that have Cosworths, and between you and me, I like the Cosworth guys a little better, as much as I claim to not like Mercedes-Benz. Yeah. But no, it's just a little friendly competition, between a 30-year-old racing series.
Well, here's the question. Here's the ethical question that we have to discuss. All right, so sure, granted, it's a 30, 40-year-old car that we're going to try to take across the country during it's December, so what's the temperature in the winter, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Cameron, your friend calls you up and says, "Hey, I just bought a car across the country. We need to go get it. It's going to be treacherous. It's going to be probably 3-4 days. We have to fly there." Who picks up the cost of the entire trip? Is that something that you as a buddy say, yeah, okay, let's go? Do you buy your airplane ticket? Do you buy your hotel? Do you buy your food? Or is that all on the buyer of the car? Who has to incur the cost? Or is it just a cool thing to do as a buddy to say, yeah, my man, let's split the cost. Let's make a little vacation out of it. It's going to be a good time. What do you say to your buddy who wants you to drive across the country?
So I'm planning something similar, but far stupider and far more mullet-worthy.
Wow, more stupid than driving a 30-year-old Mercedes through across the country in December.
Like to the 6th power more stupid. 10 to the 6th power more stupid. So my thing is I think college road trip rules apply, especially in this day and age, because flights are cheap, man. Flights are cheap, gas is cheap and stuff. So it's I wouldn't expect someone if I'm taking somebody with me, I wouldn't expect them to chip in on gas. But if we're flying down together one way to get the car, it's like a cross-country plane ticket. It's $130.
Right.
Yeah.
You can handle that. And then as far as food, everybody takes care of their own food, or you take turns buying. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I feel like that's college road trip rules. That's the low-class yuppie way.
Yeah.
That's how I live. So that's
in the past, I've always had people, I've done this multiple times. I've gone on road trips and I invite a friend, but I always feel okay, I can't, I want the company. I don't want to do it by myself. So I'll have someone go with me and I'll just pay for everything. But usually that person usually winds up paying a bunch of stuff as well. Because as the person who's going with, I wouldn't just freeload the whole time. I would chip in as well. But Deeb, what do you think?
Well, so here's the thing, Kevin.
I sprung this on you.
last night in a text message, JP was trying to confirm if we were going or not, and I said, well, we got to check the weather and all these other variables. And I said, look, I'll buy your plane ticket, and then we can, split the hotel costs across the country. And then before he answered, he asked your opinion on the air. So here we are. So now I'm in for the hotel and I'm in for the plane ticket and the hotels, and then I'll wait for JP to buy my lunch every other day.
Well,
so
I'll tell you.
Well, I don't know. Cameron said that it's college road trip rules, so I have to pay for half.
Rules, man.
Yeah.
I think I think it's worth him, you, and the girl, because we did learn about 5 minutes ago that you don't know the difference between a head gasket and a cover gasket. And if I'm driving across the country in a 30-year-old car with somebody, I want somebody that knows the difference.
Thank you very much. That
is not a character judgment. That is just being practical.
We were driving across the desert in the middle of the night in a couple of air-cooled cars. Mine had air conditioning, and my motor, it felt like it was starting to seize. So we pulled over in the middle of the dark, and JP pulled out his light. Yeah, in the middle of the desert on the side of the road with no moon. We were literally almost in pitch black. And what JP encouraged me to do was to take a knife and cut the belt that was running my air conditioning. And that saved the thing. But I don't know if I would have pulled that same move without him there. So it was great having JP.
There's another key point to that story, and that is we were in the middle of the desert in a place called Zizix, right? It's halfway between Las Vegas and Los Angeles, and there are more scorpions per square inch in that part of the desert than anywhere in the world, and I didn't know that at the time, and I was climbing around underneath that car on my back.
That's so true. Yeah. Anyway, it fixed the problem and freed up about 20 horsepower. My car never ran so good. I didn't want to hook the AC back up.
I don't see any point to AC in an air-cooled car because your only two AC vents are those tiny two right in the middle of the dash, and it's just like a fat man blowing through a straw, and it's so much weight.
Yeah.
I just removed the AC from my Mercure, because it has like the flat. It doesn't really have much of a grill, so the AC condenser actually is huge and had its own separate fan. So it actually removed a substantial amount of weight even beyond the compressor.
Yeah, and way out in front of the front axle.
And way out in front, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And I'm moving the alternator so that I can run an intercooler where the condenser used to be, and I'm moving all the way to the alternator down lower. And
is that an XR4 Ti, also
yes,
known
sir.
as a Ford SVO?
Yeah.
Isn't that the SVO drivetrain?
It is. It's the non-intercooled SVO drivetrain, and I aim to fix that. I aim to fix that mistake.
Yeah.
But
next, a big deal. Yeah.
Next week, I was going to go out and get it this Saturday. This Saturday is my birthday, and I've got a show up at Funny Stop in Cuyahoga Falls. There's my plug. I'm opening for Ray DeVito, very funny guy. You've seen him at Caroline's in New York City.
Nice.
All right. Due diligence over. The following weekend, I'm actually driving out. What is it? Sajeev Mehta turned me on to 92 to 94 Ford Rangers use that same 2.3 with a serpentine belt setup, and they relocate the alternator. And it's an entirely modular setup. So the tensioner is on the alternator, so you can run you can run with the power steering pump, without one. I'm going to keep mine, and you can remove the AC, and it's a very clean setup. And instead of having V belts and pulleys going nowhere, you've just got a single serpentine setup. I like a clean engine bay. That's it's not really much of a performance upgrade, but I am getting a roller cam out of the Ranger.
Hey, Cameron, you've got a car that you're going to be selling on Cars and Business soon, right? What do you tell us what we're looking for?
We've got a 1999 BMW 540i Touring in the very rare Sienna rot.
Ooh.
Nice. Wow.
What shade is Sienna? Is that like a burgundy?
It's like a bright burgundy, if that makes sense. Okay. It's very strange. Oh, you know that metallic red that they put on every Mustang in the 90s? Yep. Imagine if that was a pretty color and not hideous. That's what Sienna Rot would look like.
Rose, yeah.
Yeah, or
manual transmission, I take it?
No, we didn't get manuals, and BMW were real a-holes about the 5-series, the E4 or E39, and I believe E6 generation. So, okay, manual, V8, wagon, 2. Which is that was the issue I had with my E34. I had to buy a whole other car to get the stuff to swap it. Which I'm going to be finishing that swap and selling that one soon too, so I can work my hand in BMW.
Touring is a wagon, but it's an automatic gearbox.
Yeah, it's got the Alpina Trans tune on it. We did the previous owner did all of the M5 stuff to the body, including the door sill plates. But on the rear bumper, instead of doing the M5 rear bumper, they did the M-Tech 2 Touring rear bumper. Actually, John, can I send you a link on Facebook to a picture of that car?
Yeah, this is not the car for the audience. I was just looking up the car just for a reference.
Sorry for the typing noises here, because it's actually a really beautiful picture of the car.
Nice.
At this
photos sell cars on the
for sure. Well, this is a beautiful car because it's got the staggered M parallel wheels. It's got the M bumpers, but it's got the correct bumper on the back. For a wagon, because there was never an M5 Touring in that generation. So there was an M-Tech 2 bumper, so it's got the plastic on top, but it's still from the side the profile of an M5 bumper. It's a very rare piece in the United States.
Yeah, Jason Camisa has a E30 3 Series Touring, which is a really cool car that he rocks around Northern California.
I hate to say, and I like Jason Camisa, and I'm not dogging on his taste here. There's the car right there.
Hey.
But I think E30 Tourings, price-wise, are some of the most overrated cars ever because, like, the E34 Touring is a far more attractive, more useful car.
Of course,
and they cost a quarter of the cost, and they look like a pubescent E30. Yeah. They're much prettier.
That's a hot car.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car. It's just we've got, like, 15 cars, and we don't. That's actually my fiance's car, and she's getting rid of that. I have the E34. She has the E39.
Oh,
and
wow.
Cameron, are you going to come back and are you going to come back and do you want to do a live view of your auction on Bid Nerds?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get some liquor ready, and we'll see what happens. We
Get the cigars ready.
Yeah,
especially like
cigars and
it's
champagne.
reserve. I'm going to be very happy. I think we're pretty very reasonable, very conservative with what market in those cars. Obviously owning one, we know the market pretty well. So I think it's priced very fairly. It's a super nice car. It has like your typical minor 20-year-old BMW issues that the new owner is going to take care of. Even the most well taken care of BMW, when it's sold, the new owner has to put $1,000 or so into it just to fix little minor issues that either the previous owner learned to live with or they just stopped caring. You don't sell a car unless you stop caring about it, right? So the key when you buy a new car is to find out when the previous owner stopped caring. And luckily for the new owner of this car, it was a month ago. So, nice. I mean, I put a lot of money, new timing chain guides, new vanos, solenoids, like everything. Mechanically, this car, probably another 100,000 miles. And I intend...
Go ahead.
What's that?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I intend to keep in touch with the buyer and actually put them in touch with the guy that had it before us, so that they've got like a 10-year ownership history of the car, that if they have questions about anything, they can be like, hey, did it ever for you? Or, hey, like, is this normal or whatever? And I can be like, no, never did that for me.
I got to tell you, selling two cars on Cars and Bids, go no reserve, man. If you believe in the car, go no reserve. You'll get more money. We got to wrap it up, guys. Go ahead. One question for you, Michael Deeb.
Cameron, when's your car going to run again?
I'm not sure. I'm kind of leaving it in their hands as far as what they think the best day to put it up is.
Okay.
So, but
they haven't given you a date yet.
The car. They haven't given me a date yet, but they love the car. They're very excited about the car. They accepted it right away.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we're excited for you, and we'd love to have you on the show. That'd be fun. Great idea, JP.
Absolutely.
Great
and
idea.
then if I end up going through with this dumb cross-country trip plan, I'll keep you guys abreast of that too. It's really dumb.
Maybe we can cross paths on our cross country trips and do a mashup.
It involves a non-running J body, so I want you guys to get any 80s General Motors on you by osmosis. That Cosworth is a really nice car. I wouldn't want to have anything that. It'd be a disservice to your car to have those two in the same shot with each other.
Pretty funny.
I'll just tell you about it right now. If you guys got like 30 seconds, I'll tell you about it right now.
Let's hear it.
I'm trying to sell it to a magazine as a write-up. I'm calling it Vanishing Pointless. I've been a little bit of an Oldsmobile guy my whole life. I've always loved Oldsmobiles, and I've always been kind of fascinated by J-Bodies because it's just such a great example of shooting themselves in the foot. That's a whole long story. They're all cars, but fascinated by them. Someone sent me a 1988 Oldsmobile Forenta, which is the Oldsmobile J-Body, but an 88 Ole, the final year of production, they put Cutlass Sierra nose on it.
Okay.
And accidentally made a kind of handsome looking car. Like it's like probably the best looking American market first gen J body. And this one I found a coupe in black over blue with a blue like trim stripe. And it's one of 2,700 coupes built, and it's got the FE3 level 2 suspension and an automatic transmission. Really weird options. Very typical 80s GM. That's just a mishmash of weird stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't run, and it has no rust. It's in Oklahoma. I want to offer the guy $400, fly out, spend 18 hours getting it running again because it cranks, just doesn't start, and then drive it home over 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And so just setting a 4-day time limit on myself to do it. I'm kind of hoping he doesn't agree to my price because the more I think about it, I turned 32 in like 2 days.
Yeah,
so now I'm getting to the point where it's like this was a lot better idea when I was like 23. Like telling you guys out loud now, like that little capsule thing is like that'd be a fascinating newspaper article and just hell. I think that trip can be done for $1,000, including the car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Stand-up comedian and automotive journalist found dead in the middle of the country with a super obscure car. Well, Cameron, you really have embraced the nerd. Thank you for being our third nerd today. You can follow Cameron Vanderhorst at, is it lowclassyuppie.com? Is that right?
Lowclassyuppie.com. I tried to I tried to make a forum. I tried to bring forums back, and nobody posts. Everybody complains about how much they hate Facebook, but nobody will embrace the forum I pay for every month. But yeah, if you join, I have to approve you. But I'll approve you if you're not an obvious spammer. Yeah. And start posting away. We got sections for everything. Because I want one forum where I can talk about cars and model kits and paintball or whatever. So just talk about anything. Lowclassyuppie.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Cam Vanderhorst, which I don't update often enough. And you can find me on I think I got a 7 minutes of comedy on Bandcamp if you want to listen.
All right. Very cool.
Kick ass. All right. Well, there it is. Everyone, follow Cameron Vanderhorst on all the cool places. Thank you for joining us for another edition of The Bid Nerds. My name is John Polnik with Michael Deeb and Cameron Vanderhorst. We say thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow during the 9 o'clock hour in the morning for our next and last 5 top picks of the week on Cars and Bids and Bring the Trailer. Thanks for watching Bid Nerds. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye, Cameron. Thank you.
Bye.